Alrighty. Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Wild Card Weekend live stream for the 2023 fantasy football season. I guess you can consider it that. Either way, for the next 30 minutes or so, I just wanted to go ahead, catch up, talk all things Wild Card Weekend, potentially put together some prize pick entries going into this weekend, talk about what your guys' predictions are. Of course, I already see one in the chat from JJ saying the Seahawks are going to beat the 49ers. JJ, how do you suppose they're going to do that? I'd actually like to know what you're like. How do you see this game going? Like, because of the weather, it's already going to be difficult, moving the ball through the air, considering the wind and the rain. It's a matter of, can the Seahawks run the ball effectively on the 49ers? Now, if you truly think that they can do so, I'd like to hear, what makes you think that. Benny, what's up? I saw your tweet the other day. Yeah, it is unfortunate it would happen in week 17. 21st overall isn't bad, though. I mean, hey, listen, at least we have room to improve next season and try to capture that, get rid of that number 2 and get number 1 overall in Australia. But congratulations for going as far as you did, Benny. That's fantastic. Mario, what's up? Andrew, on what platform? Okay, yeah. So Mario earlier was asking what's the best way to play like fantasy with friends in specific. I personally have never played on a specific platform for the NFL playoffs. Like, if I was ever to do, or the times that I have done like NFL playoff leagues with friends, I've just like kind of ran the whole thing where like I have a Google Doc spreadsheet where, okay, one day we all sit down, we draft, whether it is in person or, over Discord or something of that extent. We draft players and then move it as such. And then I just update this spreadsheet every single week and boom. Now, there may be other websites in which you can go ahead and explore and find ways to do it, but I haven't been able to find one that I like, at least at this point. Benny says, can't help the bad luck. Yeah, of course. That's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. It's just unfortunate that it's unfortunate, Benny, that it occurred at that fashion to where that was the determining factor. Otherwise, maybe, just maybe, you could have captured it either way. Okay, so earlier this week, I made my playoff predictions. For those of you who saw that video, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Andrew thinks that the Cincinnati Bengals will be able to bring it home, but specifically later this afternoon, I also believe that the San Francisco 49ers have a chance to go very far in the playoffs, primarily because of their defense and what they've been able to do offensively over the course of the last, I'd say 2 months now with Brock Purdy. I mean, in the last 2 months, they have, I think, 6 or 7 performances of 30 or more total points as an offense. That is a ridiculous statistic. This team is just firing on all cylinders. They're on a current 10-game winning streak. So the Seahawks beating the 49ers would be absolutely insane at this current position. Either way, if you guys haven't checked out PrizePicks, I'm going to go ahead and put together a couple entries in regards to this upcoming game, talk about some of the other entries that I mentioned in regards to the earlier video this week in terms of predictions. But if you guys haven't checked them out, there's a link down in the description. You can sign up and use promo code Andrew today. And your first time deposit is immediately doubled when using promo code Andrew. Thank you very much. That's a first time deposit. Again, if you've already used PrizePicks, then unfortunately the promo code will not be eligible at that point. Let me see what Mario was saying. Try doing it on FD, which is cool. They have a free option. Okay, interesting. I mean, I guess, yeah, if they're gonna host it in that regard, then yeah, it would make sense that that works that way. The Pound says, a mixing of your rankings with Galaxy Braining. We won Battle Royale week 18 for 25. Wait, what? Wait a minute. How about that for 25 large? Holy moly. The Pound. Congratulations. That's incredible. That is incredible. Well done. I mean, week 18, my rankings weren't the best. I mean, obviously, it was a matter of really Galaxy Braining on your end, being able to figure out who exactly is going to play and how long they're going to play for and who's going to be relevant in those scenarios. But hey, well done. Well done. 49ers lose to the Bengals in the Super Bowl. That's your prediction, Benny? Okay. I mean, I don't mind that. I mean, to be totally honest, I think that's a very plausible, and quite honestly, I could see it happen. I wouldn't even be bothered by it. The whole question is going to be, if Brock Purdy's going to be starting quarterback and they're going to win the Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, what happens next year? Who's the starting quarterback for the 49ers? I mean, I'd love to just see the chaos that would ensue just off of that alone, which makes me like excited about the idea of that just occurring. Anonymous says, yo, Andrew, what's up? Counting the days till I can mock draft. LOL. Anonymous. I mean, listen. I think if you have an itch to get into fantasy, specifically like mock drafting and all that kind of jazz, you can go join, dynasty startups. I mean, obviously, dynasty startup primarily is going to be a matter of who you play with rather than what you play in terms of format. I think the people that you play with in specific, how active they are, how passionate they are about fantasy, and how fun they make the entire experience is everything, right? So if that isn't there, it doesn't even matter if you play fantasy or you mock draft stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, listen, I can't wait till the 2023 season, but I need a break. That's for sure. That is a given. Okay, so let's talk about some of the entries going into the game that starts in about 24 minutes from now. The San Francisco 49ers versus the Seattle Seahawks. The number one entry that I liked out of all going into the week specifically has to do with Elijah Mitchell and his 38.5 rushing yards. The primary reason why I like this so much is because we know that Christian McCaffrey's been dealing with a little bit of an ankle sprain over the course of the last couple of weeks, has been limited on 4 different occasions in the last 6 practices, primarily because they want to keep him healthy. But now that you have Elijah Mitchell back, we know how much Kyle Shanahan wants to utilize him on a consistent basis. So the thought process is 38.5 rushing yards, especially against a defense like the San Francisco 49ers, who are giving up, 112 rushing yards per game to opposing running backs over the course of the entirety of the 2022 season. Makes me feel like this is just one of those automatic plays to where even if Christian McCaffrey is going to do his damage, it could very easily look like last week where Christian McCaffrey finishes with 45 yards because, quite frankly, you don't need him to be the savior. He doesn't need to be out there every single play, especially against the Seahawks defense, because the way that the San Francisco 49ers offense works as a whole, yes, great players are going to make big plays, but the scheme itself is going to dictate a lot of this, and it really will lead to Elijah Mitchell putting together some pretty good numbers here. Now, in terms of some other players, I mean, really, this game in itself, in terms of receivers, bothersome. I have a hard time looking at a specific receiver and being like, yeah, this is going to be an automatic. If they had like a George Kittle touchdown prop, let me see here. George Kittle. Anything George Kittle related, the primary reason why I say that is because George Kittle has caught a touchdown in each of the last 4 games. The weather concerns do have me a little bit, scared on the matter. Let's see here. Is there anybody else? Tyler Lockett with George Kittle? I don't even think that's a bad idea. I mean, I prefer Tyler Lockett to score a touchdown more than specifically DK Metcalf. You know what? I don't even mind that. I think just going with these 2 plays in specific, just more on Elijah Mitchell's rushing yards and just hoping for that touchdown between Lockett and Kittle is very plausible. So we'll just go ahead and make that entry first and foremost. And then I'll clear that and start making other ones in regards to some of these players. We did see a couple comments come in here. Mario was saying the Bills-Bengals game showed some people getting greedy about the championship. Had a league where a guy was fighting for, oh, damn. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess that is that's possible. I mean, a lot of the leagues that I played in specifically really didn't have any problems. Some of our leagues, we still haven't even determined what we want to do yet because we just don't even care. Like, it's just like hey, we're there for fun. Like some of the low buy-in leagues, we're just like, hey, we're here for fun anyway. So let's just split it and let's just move on kind of thing. Ken W says, Andrew, thank you for your channel. I appreciate it. Okay. Had a huge help this season. Pick 2 of these 3 toppings on a pizza: black olives, mushrooms, pepperoni. No olives. Just put the mushrooms and pepperoni on it. That'd be fine. Thank you, Ken. Benny G says, don't forget to hit the like button. Thank you very much. Constantino, what's up? You don't have to send in any donations. I greatly appreciate it, but don't feel obligated and honestly just don't do it because I'm only going to be here for like 20 to 30 more minutes. So we're chilling. Thank you. Thanks for helping me capture my 3rd championship in 5 years. Constantino, listen, man. As much as I help, or you think I help, I'm sure the teams that you draft on draft day certainly make a huge difference. A lot of the decision making is coming from you as well. So congratulations on a 3rd chip and being crowned champion. That's obviously awesome. Michael was saying spicy pepperoni and honey. Wait, what? And honey on a pizza? Wait a minute, Michael. What the heck? How did you figure that out? How did you get honey onto your pizza and think, oh, you know what? Let's just try this. Like, what happened? Did you try syrup as well? What happened there? Jay says, Just got here. Who's going off for the 49ers? I mean, listen, who's going off in specific? The entry that I made just a couple moments ago was specifically Kittle or Metcalf to score a touchdown. So I picked more on that number. And then the rushing yards of Elijah Mitchell. Now, there is a very high likelihood that Mr. McCaffrey here, let's see, does he have a rushing? I mean, I think this touchdown could very easily be, I mean, he should be able to fall into the end zone. But the only issue is they have so many weapons, it could lead to them potentially not. I don't even mind making an entry where I have Christian McCaffrey in this conversation. The only other question is who am I pairing him up with? Because I have other entries in regards to other games. I might just kind of diversify here in terms of just adding him with another player that I really like other players that I think are likely to score touchdowns this weekend in specific. If I go to this list where you get I guess you get a higher potential for upside of a touchdown, considering there's two players on it. I would say that wherever Dawson Knox is, like Dawson Knox, Josh Allen. So Josh Allen getting any sort of rushing touchdown or Dawson Knox scoring a receiving touchdown. Dawson Knox is very much so like George Kittle. Each of the last 4 weeks has scored a singular touchdown minimum in the receiving game. So these are kind of numbers where I'm like, okay, if we're just focusing purely on touchdowns here, I don't mind that. Actually, you know what? To be honest, I'll put the entry in because I don't mind it at all. What's going on here? Place entry. Boom. Done. Okay. Okay. Other plays that I specifically like, I do like Dawson Knox. I think I talked about this earlier this week in terms of his receiving yard total. Where the heck do I have it? So his current number should have been 32.5. Yeah, it's still a 32.5. So it hasn't moved since Thursday, which is a pretty solid number in my mind. Primarily, yes, he didn't accomplish it last week, but his utilization within this offense and how much they utilized him going up against Miami last time back in week 15 leads me to believe they're going to continue to go back to that Dawson Knox well, as Josh Allen has really found himself a comfort, security blanket there in the receiving game. So his overall receiving yards, pretty solid number. Now, another, specific tight end that I like in terms of receiving yardage, TJ Hawkinson. Hawkinson, last time he took on the New York Giants, I don't know if you guys remember, what was it? 109 receiving yards. I think he had 9 catches on 16 total targets, 2 receiving touchdowns, an absolute nuclear game. They're going to go back to that well for sure. I think 47.5 receiving yards is a very attainable number for him. So if I'm just being kind of modest here and I'm not trying to add on too many of these potential plays, I think these two tight ends have a really good shot. You know what, to be honest, I honestly want to kind of throw in Dalton Schultz as well as the triple tight end play, because like I mentioned on Thursday's kind of playoff prediction video in specific, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Miami Dolphins, both these Florida teams, in fact, even Jacksonville, all 3 Florida teams are really bad at covering tight ends. Now, the only reason I don't have specifically Gerald Everett in terms of a play this week is because Donald Parham's presence really has limited Gerald Everett, but maybe the absence of a Mike Williams will ascend him a little bit more, but I don't think those targets will be going in his direction rather than going in the direction of someone like Josh Palmer. But either way, I like more on all 3 of these players. I'm going to go ahead and put together a specific tight end entry there. Let me see what you guys have to say in the chat. Has anybody found a potential prize pick entry this weekend that we're thinking is a stud play for this weekend? Kittle going over 44.5 receiving yards. More than 44. I mean, to be honest, his number here is at 40, right? So the only reason I'm not... Okay, so here's the thing. The primary reason I'm not 100% interested on jumping on the conversation of specific receiving options in this game between the 49ers and the Seahawks is that weather. If it's going to rain heavily in the first half and it's going to be a run-heavy game between these two teams, it is going to be heavily lopsided in the direction of the 49ers just running over that defense. And then if they get into the second half with a solid lead, it may end up being a pretty interesting game there, but may be difficult for him to capture this. One of the primary reasons why I also am worried about Kittle has a knack for disappearing in the playoffs. Maybe it's just me. I can probably cross-reference this with numbers, but from my personal experience, anecdotally, every time I've tried to trust Kittle in the playoffs for fantasy purposes, daily fantasy, etc., he's always screwed me over, which is interesting. Someone saying Kittle receptions. Earlier this week, they had Kittle receptions at 3.5, and now they moved it to 4. 3.5 was a perfect number. Absolutely perfect number. Mainly because of this, right? He's been on a 5-game streak of more than 3.5 receptions. Earlier this week, it was there. They just, tacked it up. I think on Thursday, they tacked it up for sure. As soon as I looked at it, maybe even 20 minutes after, it was gone. So yeah, that's what I'm a little bit worried about, because if he has to get 5 receptions in this rain, oof, it's tough to trust. I mean, again, the assumption is that the 49ers should be able to roll through this team. It's just a matter of how they do it. And I'm thinking it's going to be kind of through the running game rather than them airing it out as heavily as possible, considering they have McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell. Trey says that he took it at 3.5. Yeah, then you're good to go, Trey. At 3.5, I love the play. Absolutely love it there. Other players that I specifically like. Okay, so later today, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Chargers. With Mike Williams out, some of the numbers that I really liked in specific have to do with Josh Palmer, because again, Josh Palmer, I mean, when we have seen specifically Mike Williams out earlier this season, in 4 out of the 5 games that he has played without Mike Williams, he's been able to surpass 55 or more receiving yards. So my assumption is, okay, well, if there's no Mike Williams today, Josh Palmer should be a pretty good option there. Now, besides Josh Palmer being a good option, I think Keenan Allen should be. But the primary thing that I like about Keenan Allen is his target number. I feel like if Justin Herbert doesn't have his security blanket of Mike Williams out there, he might just have to continue to look back towards Keenan Allen. If he does, where's his current target number? Yeah, I think 9.5 could. It is sketchy because overall, as of late, those numbers haven't met at this higher rate. But I'm feeling like if we're in a game where it's a must-win scenario, specifically, right? Like this LA Rams game, if you guys remember the 6-target game, that was a one-sided affair. Like we saw the Chargers run the ball 29 times from the running backs in that game. So it wasn't a matter of where like they had to throw for the entirety of the game. Rather than this one, they certainly did. So I mean, this number, the 11 targets, was damage that was done in the first 3 quarters. Just for perspective reasoning. Indianapolis close. I mean, Tennessee almost eclipsed it. Miami eclipsed it. I mean, I think 9.5 is a pretty solid number, especially for someone who is going to be the number 1 today outright in terms of the receiving game without Mike Williams there. So if I want to pair them up with somebody, because you have to have players from multiple teams, I'm actually curious where we have Evan Ingram's at 7. Okay, you know what? I'm not even worried about targets there. I'm actually curious. I might just pair him up with Travis Etienne's rushing total just to kind of have all that bottled up in one game. Where's Travis Etienne's numbers? 75.5. This was one that I'm really liking. I mean, a lot. Again, the Chargers are one of the worst teams in terms of stopping the run. So this is the one that I'll go with. I'll go with three head play here. Roll that in. Let me see what the chat has to say here really quickly. Let's pivot over. They bumped Keenan Allen up 5 yards receiving. Yeah, I mean, that was expected, right? Kittle going over 44. And okay, interesting, Terry. DK with, okay, interesting. Christian McCaffrey with more receiving yards. Okay, Purdy over, okay. Wow, okay, so we're thinking a lot of dump-off passes, huh? So both McCaffrey and Eckler going off in terms of receiving yards. I don't even mind the idea of Eckler dominating in that. Look, here's the thing, right? Eckler in the last couple weeks has been ignored outright in comparison to earlier this season, because when you don't have Keenan Allen in the slot position, they're going to immediately look in the direction of, hey, I got to dump it off and get the ball out of my hands. And that's what Justin Herbert has done very well this season. Get the ball out of his hands, be efficient, and protect the ball, not really force it down the field. The only question is, are we going to find that Justin Herbert today? Trey in this chat was saying ETN receiving. Man, ETN receiving, it's I mean, hey, it's looking like it's been on a streak. My only concern is that every time I see a streak like this, it absolutely obliterates and falls apart on me. I don't mind putting this in on a potential play, but it has to have multiple legs so that I can't really have any falter. And what I mean by that is like, okay, so if I'm taking him, I'm also going after like passing attempts from, let me see here, where's Dak Prescott? Like I'll take Dak going more on his. I'll take, where is, like if I'm just going to add up a bunch of these players, like I really like James Cook going more on his rushing yard total. Like if I was going to add a play, it would have to be like some sort of flex play here, right? Because this scares me. I feel like he could end with 15 flat and it wouldn't surprise me. You know what I mean? Because he doesn't really get too many receptions per game anyway. Like the primary receiving back of that team, even though he's gotten himself a little bit more work over the course of the last month, they like to use JaMychal Hasty a lot on third down scenarios. The only question is if, even if Travis Etienne is to catch 1 or 2 passes today, can he eclipse that number of 16 receiving yards? That's the tough part, which again would lead me back to like, hey, if I at least get 2 of them right, I can still, 1.25x my overall entry on the given week and go from 5 to 11.25, worst case, scenario. Or actually, that's technically best case scenario. Otherwise, 2.5, yeah, this would be like a 5 turning into like a 6.25 technically. So it's just like a, hey, I get my money back, a little bit of sprinkle on top, no big deal. But hey, at least as of late, he's been able to put it up. To be totally honest, if I'm gonna add someone, I'd feel more comfortable adding these guys with someone like McCaffrey's rushing touchdown, just to kind of coin flip it, and then also go to Kyle Juszczyk on fantasy points scored, and just take over the 1 fantasy point, and just hope that he catches a single ball in a full PPR format, and then at this point do this. That's kind of what I'm feeling at this point. Yeah, I think this is probably the play. I'll take the flex on that, and I'll place that entry. Again, if you guys are feeling more bold about something like this, then of course you can just go for the 10x on that regard. But at this point, I think I'm pretty comfortable there. Again, if you guys haven't checked out PrizePicks, you guys are new, you guys are just checking it out, there's a link in the description. When you use promo code Andrew, your first time deposit is immediately doubled. So again, if you deposit 10, get an additional 10, you deposit 20, additional 20. That's up till 100. So if you guys are interested, check that out. Thank you. Trey was saying there was basketball bet yesterday that was over 5 times before the again, that's always the case. They will always sneak up on you. Speaking of basketball, let me see here. Let me refresh this page. Let me see what's going on here in the NBA, in the association as they call it. What do we have here today? Spencer Dinwiddie's kind of been playing pretty well this season. I mean, his numbers aren't as consistent. I think he's probably the primary number 2. If they're playing against Portland, the last time I had the Dallas playing against Portland, I had Damian Lillard going more than like 25 points, and he got pulled in the third quarter because it was such a blowout. Like, it was completely one-sided the last time these two teams played. Mr. Steven Adams, what are you doing over here? 10 points. He's kind of been flirting with it. Okay, I'm going back to the NFL. I don't want to get lost here. Okay, a couple of these other entries that I saw the other day, or specifically last night before I was kind of, preparing for this. We've already done Kyle Juszczyk, which I like a lot. We've already done Josh Palmer. We've already done Keenan Allen. James Cook is another one where if I'm just purely going after backup running backs, yakking up yards, this is it. Like James Cook, Elijah Mitchell. Because if we're looking at just overall, hey, which point spreads are the biggest in terms of what Vegas has it at? And we got to admit it, right? Vegas has their numbers at a specific point for a reason, right? They have an inside track on everything. The biggest point spreads are these 2 games, where it's the 49ers defeating the Seattle Seahawks, and then we have the Bills dominating the Minnesota Dolphins, the Miami Dolphins. I was looking for an M there, but it just didn't find the right word. So if you're expecting garbage time rushing yard totals, this would be it, rather than someone like Josh Kelly finding himself a lot of yardage on the ground. So I think these 2 numbers are very easily. I mean, I'm just gonna roll with it, guys. I'm just trying to have as much fun as possible, and hopefully more entries in my case would be great. In terms of kickers, these are a couple ones that I've looked at. I like Graham Gano primarily because they're indoors in Minnesota with no weather concerns. This has been a player that can certainly put up multiple field goals, and I'm not even worried about it in any sort of capacity. I'm also kind of in line with the idea that this game between the Chargers and Jacksonville Jaguars will probably lead to a lot of stalling offenses when they get down into field goal range. So I'll take Riley Patterson going more than 1.5 field goals made as well. So those are the 2 that I like there. Let me see what the chat had to say really quickly. Let me go back here. Juan, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Glad you can join us today. Brian was saying kickers are always booming at Minnesota. They are, I swear. That stadium indoors, since they got the the rebuilt dome, everything is kind of locked in place there. So, I mean, there's a chance that Greg Joseph could be, but the only problem I have with Greg Joseph is that this offense really at times this season has either been really good or really bad, right? So if they're going to be really good on Sunday and they're going to put up a boatload of points, there's not going to be any room for field goals. It's just going to be them consistently scoring, which that's a question of, I guess, where you're predicting this to go. I'm actually curious. Besides JJ earlier in the chat who was saying the Seahawks are going to win, does anybody actually besides JJ think that the Seahawks can win this game? I don't think anybody does. I mean, what's the point spread actually? Let me see here. Vegas point spread 49ers. Let's see here. Wild card weekend. What is it at right now currently? I think it's like, where does it move to? Okay. Can I find an actual website that's going to give me a number here? Jeez, man. They're like minus 9.5 favorites. Again, yeah, that's pretty tough. Trey says, I think they have a chance. Juan says, I want the Seahawks to win. Listen, I think we all, well, okay, here's the thing, right? I guess it's who you're rooting for. Like if I'm a Cowboys fan, right? And I think the Cowboys are going to win this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, by all means you want, without a doubt in your mind, the Seahawks to win that game, because you know that in order for the Cowboys to get to where they want to, they have to either roll through the 49ers or the Philadelphia Eagles with Jalen Hurts, which is definitely going to be difficult. Trey says, didn't they lose 27-7 last time they played? No. So the Seahawks lost 27-7 in week 2. The last time they played, they only lost 21-13. So they only lost by 8 points last time out against this 49ers team. But again, the primary reason, like I've explained in the past, that game was such a low-scoring event from the 49ers in specific was because it was a Thursday night football game on a short week with only 3 days rest. Both those teams were kind of beat up, and you could obviously tell that the 49ers weren't at a full capacity on that day, even though they were able to put up a pretty good, performance from Kittle and McCaffrey in that, I think it was week 15 game. So, yeah, it wasn't that big of a blowout the last time out. And the crazy thing is, too, specifically the Seattle Seahawks, they didn't find any sort of success in the first half, but Geno Smith was effective the whole game. He had like a 70% passing completion percentage, and he was effective. The only issue was they weren't able to move the sticks enough. And then Tyler Lockett obviously got hurt, broke his hand in that game, and now has a plate and like 12 screws in his hand since then. So it's interesting. This is the one that I'm actually curious about. Ezekiel Elliott went how many games? I think it was a 9-game streak of a rushing touchdown this season, and then all of a sudden last week just completely disappears. I'm thinking like this is another one of these plays that should be able to at least find Ezekiel Elliott in the touchdown, especially if you think the Cowboys are going to win, or at least this is going to be a competitive game. Zeke should fall into the end zone. Like I'm even confident enough with the idea that I'm assuming that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win that game. But even with that being the case, I still think Zeke can very easily find the end zone. I'm not expecting a complete shutout there in that capacity. When they get down into the red zone, they know that they should utilize him, and I'm going to hope that that's probably the case. These are some interesting ones. Herbert and Trevor Lawrence, can they surpass 3.5 passing touchdowns? With Eckler being there, it scares me, actually. I feel like Herbert can get away with maybe 1 touchdown. Trevor Lawrence has himself, his coveted 2 at this point. And then we're in a little bit of a tricky situation. Brock Purdy's the stud, though. This guy's had 6 consecutive games of 2 passing touchdowns. The only issue is the rain going to play a factor? That is the question. Daniel Jones and Kirk Cousins, 4 touchdowns total. That one's tough, too. Holy moly. I think, if anything, that is more likely than this game. And do I want to trust Brock Purdy? Thoughts, guys, on the Brock Purdy play? Should I assume for a 7th consecutive, game of Brock Purdy getting 2 or more passing touchdowns? Juan says, I think I'm a KC fan. Mahomes and Kelsey carried me all year. Yeah, I don't blame you at that point. I don't blame you. Mahomes is incredible this year. Without Tyreek Hill, the production that he had, imagine if they go out into free agency and they bring in another stud. Like, my goodness, they're going to be so good for so long. JK says, Hawks for the upset. Thank you all. this year, Andrew. No problem. Okay, so here's my question. The reason why I was saying, okay, let me make this entry real quick. I'm gonna make this one. I'm just gonna trust it. I'm curious. Did they get rid of all the 49ers and Seahawks players? They have. Okay, so that's done. Yeah, I mean, the primary reason why I was asking is because unless Kenneth Walker goes for a massive day, it's going to be tough. Debo touchdown. I mean, it's possible. I like Purdy. Just scared of him. Yeah, I mean, there's all. Here's the thing, right? Whenever there's a rookie quarterback that again is in because of an injury, even though Brock Purdy has played well, it's a question of is it Brock Purdy that is the difference maker or is it the system that he's playing in? And typically the system. So if in fact they find a defense on a certain Sunday that is equipped with the ability to stop that offense and that entire scheme, it's obviously going to be on the shoulders of the 49ers defense and special teams to make plays to win games, which we've seen in the past. They can do it. I mean, they went up to Lambeau last season and with special teams and defense purely won that game outright. It's just a matter of can they implore that, overall, I guess, upside from their defense and special teams once again if they fall into a little bit of trouble. Trey says, I took Zeke in playoff challenge. That counts for TDs. Yeah, I mean, again, if anybody's going to score a touchdown in that offense, it's either, there are multiple guys, but I think Zeke is that goal line guy. He's already kind of, I guess, done enough in that field to gain my trust to at least roll an entry in that regard. Basketball says, I feel like T-Law Herb is a good one. What the receive or the passing touchdowns? Where did it go? This is rushing touchdowns. Where's the passing touchdown one? Why did I lose it? This one? 3.5. Man, again, the way that Austin Eckler scores rushing touchdowns, I mean, they don't even have Austin Eckler in here because they know that he's a machine with rushing touchdowns. Herbert's going to have a massive day to be able to eclipse that. I know the last time the Jaguars took on the Chargers, they lost 38-10. The Chargers got completely blown out. Now that without Mike Williams, there's a chance that we could see that again. I doubt it's going to be a blowout in that capacity because, like we saw last week from Trevor Lawrence, he was very, I'd say, hesitant to make some of those throws and also was very inaccurate. I don't know if it was the nerves or what it was exactly, but that wasn't really the prime Trevor Lawrence that we have seen earlier this season. We've seen multiple occasions where Trevor Lawrence against really good defenses shows up, throws for an 80% passing completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, 300 yards, and absolutely dumpsters on a defense. But it's just a question of going up against that secondary and the advancement in which the running game will have, considering how bad the Chargers are at stopping the run. Will it force it away from Trevor Lawrence being able to get that high of a total? Speaking of totals, let me look at this real quick. Passing yard totals. I don't think Joe Burrow is going to be tough for me to kind of assume that this is possible. The last 2 times this season he's played against Baltimore, I think it's like 240 and 220. Actually, I think it's less. In fact, let me see here. Joe Burrow. What were his passing yard numbers against Baltimore earlier this season? In the 2 games he played, 215 and 217. Like 272 is a crazy number, especially considering they played each other last week. That might be my only less that I could possibly muster up. I don't like picking less on players, but I might go for it. Can Skylar Thompson surpass this? Probably not. That's another player that I'm willing to go ahead and root. I'm not technically rooting against them, but I'm just kind of assuming they won't play as well based on the defenses that they take on. So we'll roll with that one. Okay, so I made a bunch of entries here. We're going to hope for the best. Again, the game has already started. I want to get to watching that. I do appreciate you guys joining us. Let's see here. Trey was saying, system worked well with Jimmy G and Purdy. Forgot how Lance played. Yeah, I mean, at this point, Lance hasn't even played. I mean, we saw Lance in 2021 with 2 starts. This season, we saw him in 1 start prior to the ankle injury, and the start in which he played was in Chicago in probably the worst weather game of the entire season, which was in September, which is crazy. So it's interesting. I don't know how the Chargers can never stop the run. Yeah, I think it's a matter of them not finding enough talent in terms of linebacker and interior defensive line, because that's how you have to stop the run. You cannot let these guards get onto your backers, and these backers cannot let the point of attack from the guards force these running backs to have open lanes into the second and third level. So it's just a matter of personnel. It's purely what it is. I don't think it's a matter of, I mean, I guess technically if they play too much nickel, that could be an issue, but they don't really play too much nickel at this current capacity. All right, guys. I think that's going to be it for me. I just wanted to come on, say what's up, put together some entries. Again, if you guys are looking to put together some entries yourself, whether it's the NBA, there are second half, quote unquote, second half NFL plays. So the idea, like, okay, oh, I'm sorry about that. If in fact, okay, just a fair warning, okay, if we get into the second half and the 49ers have a massive lead, this number right here, 18.5 rushing yards. I mean, I'm just going to put the entry in right now. I'm assuming that when they get into the second half, the 49ers will have a lead. Whether it's 3 points or whether it's 1 point or whether it's 30, doesn't matter. I'm assuming Elijah Mitchell is going to be ran a lot in the second half. Also, besides that, if we're looking for another number, the assumption that I heard from a meteorologist, pretty much the weather experts themselves, is that the rain should be in the first half, and in the second half, it should kind of fizzle out. In that capacity, I would probably take someone like Tyler Lockett to go more on their receiving yard total in the second half. 31 is pretty achievable in my mind. So I'll go ahead and put another entry in there, and that'll be it for me today. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Hopefully, I'll be back with more content like this in the future. I do appreciate you guys coming by, hanging out. If you guys haven't checked out PrizePicks, again, there's a promo code of Andrew. Down in the description, there's a link. You can click that. Utilize the promo code. Double your first-time deposit. Go ahead, put together some entries, and hopefully win some cash going into this weekend's, wild card weekend. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Enjoy this weekend's games. And until next time, we're cueing the music. And that'll be it for me. I got to find the music. The music is... Where the heck did it go? All right, let me see here. Got to turn that off and then turn this on. Where the heck's the music? Aha, there it is. I found the music. Thank you, guys. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.